Afternoon. This is a City of Hardyville City Council workshop, 205 Main Street, Hardyville, South Carolina, 29927, Monday, March 31st, 2025 at 5:40 PM. I'll just remind everybody, this is a workshop. The rules of order are relaxed. Speak at will. Please let the previous speaker finish their thoughts. It's a good idea, just say before you start, are you finished? And before you go on, and that way we don't trip over everybody else. Having said that, Mr. Gruber, take us away.
Thank you, Mayor. We're here this evening to talk about a request to rezone property on Deerfield Road. Staff has prepared a comprehensive presentation to outline the history of this property, the attributes of the property itself, and then we'll talk about the surrounding areas around this particular property. Brianna, turn it over to you.
Thank you. I hope that we can give you an overview of the long history of this property and what we're looking for. Before I get too far along, the applicant is also here to answer any questions as well. This is Deerfield Road Limited Industrial request. And we're trying, there we go. The applicant is an outdoor services company. They're requesting a zoning map amendment. It is located on Deerfield Road. It is right across from what you rezoned a couple of years ago for Deerfield Estates, as well as sits between Deerfield Village and Jenny Green Apartments.
What was the apartments?
Jenny Green,
That's the apartments. Okay.
those were the affordable housing ones that came in a number of years back. As from the zoning map, you can see the planned development across the street. You can see the zoning for the industrial development that goes along Steiny Road and Deerfield, as well as the multifamily zoning that this is, and it's sandwiched between the Deerfield Estates and, the Deerfield Village and Jenny Green Apartments. There's all that information, adjacent properties. The site is currently undeveloped. This is a view looking towards the property from Jenny Green Apartments Drive. And that is looking back at Jenny Green and Deerfield Village. That's Deerfield Village as well, Magnolia Circle. The history of this project, it came in back in 2006. It was owned by two Catholic nuns, Sister Lupe and I can't remember the other sister's name. And they wanted a live-work opportunity. They wanted to have multifamily, affordable housing. They also wanted to have jobs. It never played out quite like it was intended to do, but we do have those two communities there, residential communities. But this property has remained undeveloped in between the two. It was annexed and zoned in March of 2006. The MZDO talks about multifamily residential zone is intended to be developed and reserved for medium and high density residential and act as a buffer between single family residential and more intense commercial industrial uses. Limited industrial is intended to provide areas for limited industrial purposes which are not significantly objectionable in terms of noise, odor, fumes, etc. Encourages compatibility with similar uses, and it discourages encroachment of things like mobile homes and other things, other negative impacts. Economic development analyst element of the comprehensive plan does recommend for a strong economy and making jobs and affordable housing all in the same general area. And the land use does respect the natural environment. We'll talk a little bit more about, there are some wetlands out in that area. This property is kind of buffered around it by that, but you'll be able to see that on the map as well. And the process, as you know, Planning Commission, which they heard this earlier in the month, and they make a recommendation to City Council, and then it'll go to staff review committee meeting for that if rezoned. Planning Commission does recommend this approval of the zoning map amendment as presented. And that's us. We've got some further pictures on there, but we're happy to answer any questions. As I mentioned, the applicant is here to answer any questions. And that's what we have for you today.
Explain again before we go to questioning. What is it now, and what is it being asked to change to?
It's currently undeveloped and it's zoned multifamily. It's 19 acres plus or minus in size. It is, as I mentioned, between Deerfield Village and Jenny Green Apartments. All the frontage is on Deerfield Road. And it backs up to some parcels in the county. The one closest to it is currently undeveloped around the rear of the property.
The purple is,
Limited industrial. There's a concrete plant back there, and there's some other things like that back on Stiny Road.
Do you want me to go to the additional pictures?
That might be a good idea to show them what's on Stiny.
None of this is on 321.
John, would you
Yes.
turn yourself on?
Yes, the property does have frontage on 321.
The reason I'm asking that is, how's this going to affect any of the people that are on 321? As far as, are they going to be concerned about industry? I know it's limited, but
We had the only comments, and we did have a public member
Yeah.
come in out at Planning Commission.
Right.
And that person lives on Pearisburg.
Petersburg,
Pearisburg, I can't say that, Mr. Carroll.
you've been here long enough to be.
I know, I'm trying.
Oh,
He's on a roll. That person was concerned about development in general.
Right,
This is for a outdoor sales, landscaping type equipment, and they can, or not equipment, resources. So they can certainly explain all of that to you a little better on what they're planning to do with
kind
this.
of like maybe like something, similar to like number turf or something like that with the,
Sorry, sir.
And your name for the record.
My name is Anthony Seminara, and I own Outdoor Services Company. So we're like the greenery.
okay.
We do landscaping and concrete.
and what's stored on the site?
No store. It'll be a building, sort of like your brand new fire department building over there on Stiny Road that y'all built. Similar to that, offices in the
We
front.
didn't build that.
Oh, that's the county. Sorry.
Sore subject.
Sorry. But just basically a warehouse like that in the front, and then it'll have a couple mechanic shops in the back for our trucks. Parking where our staff could come in, grab their vehicles, go on out. Accounting, all that stuff to be handled inside the office. Basically, office building.
material storage.
Our own material, not for sale to the public.
When you say concrete, what are we talking? Are you landscaping concrete or you?
So we work for all of pretty much every national builder you guys and regional builder and local builder that y'all have in this area. So we go from Brunswick, Georgia, to Greenville, South Carolina right now. We stretch across the state. Everything we run is out of this office that we're in. Right now we're in Ridgeland. We have a couple of lots spaced out, and we're trying to put them all underneath one umbrella so that we can handle all of the new growth that we have in this market.
So you're actually laying the concrete, you're not.
Yes, sir. No. We lay the concrete
For home builders.
for most of the homes that y'all probably live in.
The only materials you'd have forms, things like that.
Yeah, forms. We'll have sand. We'll have rock, stuff like that when we got to ship it out. Plants, for all the landscaping and stuff like that.
You showed a picture before of a property with a fence. Could we go to that? That one. Now, is this property going to be fenced like that? And where are the buildings? How far are they set back? Are they right on the road? Are they set back?
we didn't go with the with an engineer yet to find out all the setbacks and stuff like that. But what my goal is if you look on our property that it's wooded, I'd like to keep as much natural buffer around that property as we possibly as you guys would possibly allow us. Um, yeah. When we will obviously will need, you know, access in and out, probably 2 40-foot lanes to make it easy. But yeah, we would, the more natural buffer we would leave, the less it'll cost me to go put the shrubs and the trees right back to where they were. Would rather not be seen because we don't have zero sales to the public. Everything we do is contract based.
So we're near residents there.
Yes, sir.
What is the typical noise level coming in and out? Are there like cement trucks, or are they, how frequent are they? Give me an idea of the daily flow of your activities.
Okay.
Are there loud machinery on the site? Are there 50 cars a day, 5 cars a day? Give us an idea of a normal flow in and out of your day.
Okay. What we have right now on the site in Ridgeland, we have a couple of lots, 3 or 4, in Riverwalk Business Park now. We have an office up in the front. So our normal day is we do have some tractor trailers, some bigger stuff because we do a lot of big work. They leave the yard 5:30 to 6 o'clock in the morning. They come back about 3:30 in the afternoon.
And are they driving pickups or?
No, they'll drive dump trucks,
Dump
big trucks. And they'll leave about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. They won't return back until about 3:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon. They stay out on the sites. And then we have 25 probably pickup trucks that'll pull trailers. They leave our sites at 6:30 in the morning and they come back at 5 p.m. 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. Now, as you guys know, we do a lot of work in Hardyville, and one of our 2 biggest providers, like our tractor trailers, they go and fill up all the stuff that's in Curry at Tom's place. So like they're going right there anyway every single day. And then our largest provider of concrete, when we're pouring at 3 o'clock in the morning, is SRM. So I assure you, we don't have anything 5-yard loaders like that. Well, you know, we have small stuff, but our stuff mostly stays on job sites.
And excuse me, we're talking about these properties up in here where we have the batch plants and everything for the Curry Creek and other.
This mayor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
You cross, Deerfield Road, not overly wide road. If you're bringing semis in there, that could be difficult at times, and leaving at 5:30 in the morning. Very difficult time. You know, I'd like to hear how you plan to minimize the problem and maximize safety for those folks there. And the other thing that I'm considering is, you're looking at a very large piece of property here. Your buffers between Jenny Green Apartments and Deerfield Village would have to be substantial. What, you're looking at 19 acres, 19 and a half acres almost. What do you envision of occupying that 19 acres? How much of that do you envision using?
So right now, I'd probably say we're going to use 5 to 7 of those acres.
Okay, if I was to ask you for my approval on this, would you be comfortable with a 100-foot buffer between yours and Deerfield and a 100-foot between Jenny Green?
He certainly can give you his opinion and recommendations, but on a straight rezoning, we have to go with what's in the ordinance for the requirement, but.
What is that? What is that? If you don't mind, why is that, Mayor?
Front is 50 feet from Deerfield, it would be 321, it would be 50 feet. And she's looking on the sides now, next to
Okay, so
residential.
so the sides are 25, but they have additional requirements because it's residential to commercial. So that would mean, sorry, I'm violating the rules. Yeah, so the 25 would also be required to have a significant either living fence or installed um, wall of some sort, masonry wall or whatnot, if it's even close to the 25 feet. But there are requirements in our MZDO for that buffering, and there is a wetland. That, and I don't have all the engineering details, but I believe there's a large wetland like right in here.
Wraps behind.
That kind of wraps, yeah. So that's going to provide kind of a natural buffer as
So
well.
then we'd be looking at the Jenny Green Apartments, and I'm just saying that is to give those people the quietness. And I'm not saying y'all are gonna make a lot of noise, but you've got heavy trucks that are gonna be leaving there at 5:30 in the morning. And, you know, those big diesels do make a little bit of grinding and a little bit of noise, when they're leaving. And we have to be respectful of those folks that are in this.
For sure. Now on the Jenny Green side, basically right here, that right now is a ditch that basically runs down this way. So there's natural vegetation now that's there. And for the cost of leaving 30, 40, 50 feet of pine trees versus me putting in a living fence or a masonry fence, I'll be much more happy to leave that. Now, 100%, we want to be part of you guys, not, we want to work with you. The front, those setbacks, we're probably going to go more than that. Now, this side where it touches Deerfield Village is sort of really, it's a little bit of a weird line. Like, for us to develop this would be silly. So, like, basically, this is going to have a huge, we're probably talking a couple of acres that are just going to be left natural. Because it's just, for us, we're not going to get anything over here. There's nothing that we can put in there that's going to be, give it enough space for it to even make sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I have two concerns that we touched on, and I don't know how to reconcile it in my own mind, and that's why I'm going to bring it up, so maybe somebody will come up with it. Number one, I'm concerned about the noise level at 5:30 in the morning, and these are families. If I have an infant sleeping at 5:30 in the morning and a truck wakes it up, I'm going to really be mad at you. Okay, so noise is one of my concerns. And the other concern is what Steve brought up, is the turning onto Deerfield Road. Now, it's a narrow road, but, it's at 5:30 in the morning. I don't think there's a big traffic problem there. But there's still turning radiuses that, have to be a concern. And so whatever the entranceway is, it has to be wide enough so there's some sort of turning radius for his trucks when they're coming out, so they can, have a sweep, so to speak. So those two things are, I don't know how to reconcile noise at 5:30 in the morning, because I don't have a clear concept of how bad it is. Now, what I want to do to get it, at Riverwalk, do they leave at 5:30 in the morning?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna be there one day.
Okay.
So let me arrange, make sure I have your number
Yes, sir.
before we come to a reading. I want to witness it myself, and that's the only way I'm going to be able to reconcile the level of the noise.
I have a decibel meter you can use.
Also,
I wouldn't know how to use it.
Use the button is all you do.
Mayor, I want to also say, we have done, because this is not a plan development, we haven't done the level of engineering and review that will happen at staff review committee meeting. It will have to go to DOT. They will have to make improvements to 321, a number of things, because 321 is a very important roadway. And I'm sure Katie can speak to a little more everything that goes into SRC. But there will be things that we will not let out of there unless they meet the letter of the ordinance.
And I constantly hear about the quality of that road. The
I
people
know,
are
me too.
constantly complaining about 321. Now you add heavy equipment on there, that's going to deteriorate the road a little quicker.
That's something that we certainly will address and look into as we're going through our review process from our perspective and working with the other agencies.
The question, the batch plant starts early.
Yes, sir.
The batch plants, if they're
Hour and a
running,
half before us.
yeah, so there is significant noise in that area, but they are using Steiny Road mostly?
Yes, depending on where they would go, they would most likely use Steiny.
Okay, thank you.
Now, Mr. Mayor, when you're 100% right about the egress and the regress off of 321, now thank God DOT did a fine job of fixing that whole road so you can actually fit 2 trucks on it nowadays. But basically, on 321, a couple of miles up the road is the Deerfield Sand Mine, CEMEX.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So
On
that's-
the other side of the road.
Yes, sir. That's where all of our trucks will go in the morning and grab all that sand.
Oh,
for-
so they
for
go
Mr.
up there.
Yeah.
and
Yes, sir.
then-
So we're running 321 all day long.
The right turning coming out in the morning and.
Yeah. Yes, sir. But also when they're right turning, we want to make sure that they're not going to go on to oncoming traffic because the insurance company still says that is my problem. So we want them to be able to go right on to the road and go on, or right out to the left and go on their way without impeding any traffic.
John, you have a question?
Just going, dovetailing what the mayor asked a while ago about the noise. Did anybody bring that up, Brown, in the planning meeting, or have you been concerned about that? I mean,
We've tried to reach out to folks right now to find out if there's any concerns with everything going out there from the tow yard right next door to Deerfield. Katie's gonna point to it. That's Mr. Golden's and Reed's towing. They have three companies going out of there.
Yeah.
As well as the new landscaping place that will be up at the top of Steiny Road and a number of things. Right now, we couldn't find anyone, county or city, or any of those residents that had any concerns about it right now. Now, I know that can change.
Yeah.
But that's what we've looked at. The residences, for what we see, a lot of that out there are working early as well. But I know there are families out there too, so.
There were, the people on Argent Boulevard had no complaints until they moved in.
Yes, sir.
So people
Agreed.
don't anticipate what's going to happen, and they don't understand really the extent of what's going there, and so they won't come out. We know that. It's after it's in, they say, oh my, how could you do such a thing?
yeah.
So it's our responsibility to anticipate where problems may lie. And that's why we're asking these questions. And it's important, those people on either side of you are there now. They deserve to maintain whatever their quality of life is.
That's summed it all up right there.
So whatever we have to do, and I'm a firm believer in site visits, so I will be there. I'll arrange it. Steve's going to give me a noise meter. I want to see the in and out. I want to see it, feel it, hear it, and I'll report back to council because I'm concerned. That's my only concern. I think all the other things we can work out. I don't want to lower the quality of life for the people who live there.
100% agree with you, sir. The one thing that we are going, if you guys said yes, hypothetically speaking, the only thing that we're going to bring there is a boatload of jobs and opportunities for everybody. We're a growing company. I mean, right off the rip, by us being able to build this facility is going to open up 25 jobs right off the rip. So that's the biggest thing for us, is to have the growth for us. I mean, we have 175 guys now, and we're going to need more. And by us having the ability to grow into an 18, 19 acre spot is going to allow us to be the next Greenery or somebody like that, so where we can basically pick a place to call our home as well.
And we want you, we welcome you, and, again, it's our job to see what effect it's going to have on the surrounding area, and because we want the growth, we want the jobs, and we applaud that part of it. Now, let's just get it right.
Yes, sir.
And back at what the mayor said, while, you do seem like you're really conscientious about the neighbors and stuff, and that's kind of a rarity. Because a lot of times people, and they just say, well, we want to come in, and so that is reassuring.
Yes, when we were at the planning meeting, I guess I built, what was his name? Mr. Talbot's house. So I was scared up here, and he said, "Oh, yeah, I think you do. I do remember you." So it was a good thing. So, but no, we built pretty much everywhere y'all live. We build a lot of y'all's houses one way, whether it's on the landscaping side, whether it's on the concrete side, whether it's on the erosion stuff. So we've been here for 20 years. I've been living here. I moved from up north, and this is home. You know, this is where I live. So my kids hunt up here at the Richardson's place in Tillman. You know, we fish, we duck hunt over there on Myers Lake. I don't want that stuff to change. And that's what we love about being in the South, to be able to go hunting in Tillman, duck hunting in Myers Lake, and then be at our house in 30 minutes. So we 100% want to make sure that it's a positive thing.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Couple of things. We're concerned, and we all share the concern for the noise. Part of it, once your trucks hit Deerfield Road, that's not our purview that we can really say much about. That's a state road. And you're going to be passing in front of Jenny Green Apartments and Deerfield Village.
Yes, sir.
You know, and that's going to be a concern, that noise level, because I'm more concerned directly about that noise level than I am from the side to side at the time. But you just said something, you had 19 acres that you were eventually going to grow into, and that's why it's so important that this noise or sound or however we want to do it is laid out now. As you grow in there, you may only be looking at 5 acres now, but 5 years from now, you may be at 10 years, then 15 acres, and then, you know, you're going to expand into your property. And what we lay out for the noise now will still be in place as you expand. So that's why we are taking so much concern with this.
Sure, 100% agree with you guys. You know, there's no arguments about that. We want to make sure that in 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, we're all the same happiness as we are today.
Thank you.
I have one question, because I see you have Deerfield Village on one side and you have Jenny Green Apartments on the other side. Your property sandwich between those two developments, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so how do you plan on securing your business once, let's say, everything goes great, from kids getting in your property and exploring? Kids will be kids. They'll want to climb on the trucks, they'll want to see a big rig and all of that stuff, and you know, it could be considered an attractive nuisance. So how do you plan on preventing children from getting on your property?
Bring really big dogs. No, I'm just joking. No, I'm just joking. I'm joking. So firstly, no. So hopefully their parenting is the same as mine, and saying, make sure you don't go where you don't belong. The second thing, natural buffer, and then worst case scenario would be putting up a fence, which I don't know about you guys. I moved down here because I don't like to see fence. I hate concrete, even though I'm in the industry, and I like green. So that would be our last call, would be to put up a chain link fence, just because it just doesn't look pretty, you know. So we would try the natural buffers, but then obviously for securing and theft and stuff like that, we would be probably most likely forced to put up a chain link fence.
Because I'm concerned with children. I mean, kids, they will, you know, they do whatever it is. Mom tells them don't go over there. Guess what they're going to do?
They're going.
They're just going to go.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Just because you said it.
because she said it, and also it's natural curiosity. So if they see the big rigs there, and you know, want to climb up on one of them, see what it's all about, you know, and then someone falls and gets hurt, that's what my biggest concern is.
And we did start preliminary talking to the site engineers, and every one of them is going to make us put up a fence of some sort. Oh, yes, sir.
This is a question for staff. What are those properties along Stanley Road behind Deerfield and all the way down to Jenny Green? What zoning do we have on those?
They are limited industrial, but we have some pictures we can show you of those properties as well, if you'd like to see.
My only question is because those properties also back up to Jenny Green and they back up to Deerfield. I don't want to ask anything more or less of what those properties, if they're undeveloped, what would we be asking them to?
Well, and one thing I do want to add, that the one that surprises me, here's the pointer, is this one right here, which is with the 3 wrecker services. We thought for sure that, because that's kind of all hours of every day, and those are big. Some of them can tow the big semis and everything. And we have not heard any complaints for that use. So, I mean, that's a good. We also don't hear any complaints about any of the other uses like the concrete or the landscaping uses going on right now. They're a pretty quiet community out there. I do, you know.
I asked Sam the same comment, on that, to see if he'd had reports that we hadn't heard about. And he said when Golden first went out there with his services, there were questions, but nothing recently. So that's something good to, and he had, for a while, he was allowing US Foods to bring their trucks in and out of there. We had to stop that use because that was not allowed, but, those kind of things have been happening.
So they won't be having to deal with the, when the backup alarms, the beep, 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 beep kind of thing. Would those developments, would they be having to deal with that kind of thing? Especially when they are leaving that early in the morning, and noise travels.
They'll be going forward, beep beep is when you back up.
Mr. Carroll is correct. We're going to design the yard so that everybody can pull in and stage to go out. So there will be beep beeps, but it's going to be around probably between 3:30 in the afternoon and probably 5:30 in the evening. You don't want them guys backing up in the dark, I assure you. And Ms. Guzman, I still call them the beep beeps too.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
They deal in cement, maybe that little hair thing you would need it, you might want to ask him after the meeting. Quietly after the meeting. Okay, Brian or Katie, what I would like for first reading, that everyone in those 2 developments get a letter and telling that there will be a meeting, and that they're welcome to, there will be a public hearing during that meeting. So if there are any concerns, they're aware of it. I don't want anybody saying they didn't know.
Absolutely. Notifications were sent out a week before Planning Commission, as is typical now with our ordinance, but we'll make sure that it's re-upped and
Make
the
sure,
signage is out there.
just go an extra step and make sure they're aware. And I'll see you at 5:30 in the morning, as my schedule allows.
That will work. And Ms. Brown, if we could send them out again, if you just give us the list again, we'll send them all out for you guys.
Okay, so sometime before, the first reading is the 17th. So sometime before then, I want to come out and just see a normal activity.
And Mr. Mayor, we could start over here, and then we can go over there so you can see the difference in the noise.
I
assure you
live
ours
near
gonna be
there.
less.
Let's start over there. You just tell me where it is, I'll go over.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. This is the reason for the workshop is, we have information. Now we have a chance to mull it over for 2 weeks before we are put in a position where we have to actually vote and each of us have to make a decision.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Do you have coffee at 5 o'clock in the morning? I'll bring my own. I don't,
You will that day.
And if you can share my contact with. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Safe out there.
Thank you.
I've been disappointed. Okay, Mr. Gruber, what's next?
Figured it'd be easier to come down and speak to you down here. All right, so we just wanted to start a conversation surrounding the city's existing ordinance concerning noise from construction activities. A couple of weeks ago, we had a property adjacent to areas within Sun City that they started doing some moving work, clearing trees, clearing ground, things of that nature. Ultimately, they were performing that work on a Sunday. Not that it's indicative of anything, but we think they were trying to make up time due to some rain delays that they'd experienced. But the point was they were out there on a Sunday doing a lot of earth moving activities, which generates a significant amount of noise. And so there was concerns from the public about us regulating that. And so the existing language in your code, and this was fairly recently amended, but the existing language in your code speaks to building operations, and it's a fairly broad definition to really kind of contain any kind of construction related activities. But it basically says building hours are between 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Sunday. So 7 days a week, 7 a.m. is the earliest you can start, and you must be completed with your construction activities by 7 p.m. So that's our current standards. So the question before you this evening is, do we need to amend those standards further to provide additional protections for the public? I believe particularly with focus on the weekend. Staff has done some research in this area. We can tell you that jurisdictions treat this differently. It really kind of runs the gamut. Some don't have any regulations at all. Some go as far as the city of Charleston to prohibit any kind of construction-related activities on Sunday, and some are kind of in between. So the town of Bluffton permits it on Sundays, but pushes the time back to have them start at noon, and they go from noon to 7 on Sundays. So really the question for you all is this something that we need to take up and amend? And if so, what's the guidance that you would give to us so that I can work with Prina to draft an ordinance that we can bring back for your formal consideration?
I'd like to add to Josh's thoughts, because obviously this has come from Sun City as a result of those apartments. What I did was I called Jeff Coggin, who is the master developer of East Argent and originally the West Argent, and Stephen Hoyer, which has the project in East Argent and also owns the Morgan Tract. And I talked to him about Sunday operations. And here are, and I had sent this to Josh, here are some of the thoughts of them. Now, both of them surprisingly said they would not, they don't like their builders working on Sundays. So, you know, for them to ban Sundays, they weren't opposed to that. But here's some ideas. A, ban Sundays, but grandfather anyone with an existing permit. And B, for that, those that are grandfathered in, change to 12 to 5 or 1 to 6. So eliminate the Sunday hours, even if we grandfather some people. And the reason they had for that was because if some of these builders have performance requirements, they'll use Sunday as catch-up days so they don't get penalized for not, you know, having their performance met. So if they have a permit and they have that planned in there that way, that's one thing. But if they don't have a permit, now they know they can't work on Sundays, then they have to plan that into their timetable. So that was the reason for grandfathering people for a permit versus those that don't have a permit. Second thought, ban Sundays, but allow Sundays where there are no occupied residents within a certain distance, whatever that might be, 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles. The reason, think of it this, does a tree that falls in the middle of the forest make noise? Not if you're not there, right? Okay, so if whatever distance you put in there, if it's miles from any residence, then to allow Sunday work, So what? It doesn't bother anybody. So that was and this exception would be determined when a permit application comes in. So in other words, the planning department would determine whether or not it's within whatever that circumference we do. So that's another suggestion. Another suggestion, make it 12 to 5 or 1 to 6 for everybody. Just change it to those hours. I suggested to them, I asked them about changing Saturday from a 7 a.m. to an 8 a.m. Start. They thought that was reasonable.
Say that again.
Changing Saturday, so all the other things were for Sunday, but change Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Give the Saturday morning an extra hour in there. But neither had an objection to a Sunday ban. The grandfather clause is reasonable, especially, if they're making up delays. And new permits should factor in, it's a 6-day week and not a 7-day week. So before they apply for a permit, they know what they're dealing with. So that was the suggestions from the 2 phone calls I made. And I thought that would be a good basis for debate.
May I, Mayor?
Yes.
And just for your consideration, so you're aware, your current ordinance does have a limit on what it applies to. So your building operations only applies to those areas in a block where more than half the buildings on either side of the street are used exclusively for residential purposes. So if there's no residential around where it's happening, the building hours don't apply. They can operate outside of that 7 to 7. So you do already have that kind of restriction. You could further restrict it if you wanted to, but it already says if you're not in an area where more than half the buildings near them are used for residential purposes, then the 7 to 7 doesn't apply.
But that doesn't designate a specific circumference or parameters, like a mile or two. It just,
Yeah, you
It's
could
just
further
general.
add that, but right now it says anything that more than half near it at all, on either block, it's a block on either side of the street.
I think
So,
the assumption would be that when we have a noise complaint, it's going to be generated from one of these residences that's adjacent to where this is happening.
correct.
And therefore to be applicable, so then the question is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Sunday the standard, or should it be something
Right.
different?
When we visited this with the MZDO prior, and the first thing that we start touching on Sunday is it's a Christian holiday. What about our Jewish friends on Saturday? What about our Muslim friends? So even though we are doing it not for any of those reasons, that's how I feel that it will be viewed. Restricting them to noon, that's possible. We could still run into some of that same problem.
I don't think so.
You know,
I could be wrong, but,
I just don't, I don't know.
I mean, that's
How many complaints have we had about this? I know we've had this one complaint.
It's come up, I
it's the
think,
first time we've had construction right next to an existing neighborhood.
Yeah.
We
I wouldn't
typically,
be surprised where we've had some other complaints before.
We, just enforcement, if we go to the noon, then we're gonna have to be sure that we enforce that. That's,
We have had some complaints, but we also have people that want it to happen every day or quicker so that it's done. And I think we've had that kind of balance from our perspective.
and we run into a problem, and I heard it just before we came here. And there again, it's in Margaritaville, the concrete trucks are coming in. They're sitting outside a residence with the trucks turning at 6:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And we know they're not starting work, they're just traversing to work. Fine line.
Yeah.
the complaints I've heard haven't been religious-based.
No.
They've been, okay, Sunday is a day of rest, and, and even, listen, at Sun City, they're off work every day. But, there's just something about Sunday where people want to sleep in. And you can see it on the golf courses, you can see, just driving. There are less people out Sunday morning than there are Saturday morning even. I mean, it's, for whatever reason that is. So,
How many contractors are working on Sundays now? Do we, how many? Yours is, yeah. See, now, Margaritaville, they're not working on Sundays.
I think it's probably going to be hit and miss depending upon the company. And again, I think some of it probably is driven by weather-related events and such. But I will kind of add to this discussion, and this is a concern that I brought up with the mayor when we first started talking about this. And it's not the construction-related activities, because again, that's fairly clear. You have legal basis to regulate it, even though I certainly understand your concerns about how it could be argued. But I do believe that's defensible. But what I see being a potential issue is the slippery slope of, okay, well, it's construction noise, then it's landscaping noise, then it's any noise, and it becomes a very difficult standard to enforce, because there are some noisy activities that are out there whenever you fire up a pressure washer, leaf blower, things like that. And so my prior experiences, we were starting to have conversations about were we going to mandate all electric and get rid of gas powered, appliances to try and reduce the amount of noise that people were being exposed to on the weekends.
That's California, we're not gonna go there.
Well, I will tell you, it is here. It's a conversation that people are starting to have. Sea Pines has already put it in place and banned anything 2026 and going forward. It has to be battery operated, cannot be gas powered. So I put that out there to say, I think if we start talking about this subject, it would not surprise me if either at this time or sometime afterwards, that gets brought up as well.
How far down the line would we take this? Say Joe Doe has a permit to build a shed. It's all permitted and stuff. He starts banging that hammer at 8 o'clock. His neighbors have the right to complain, and he could be,
Correct.
wow. And you're right, then it is a slippery slope. I don't know what the answer is. I'd love to see the noon and without any problems. If we can do it, fine.
I can tell you it's defensible. Knowing the other jurisdictions that have it in place, I believe it would survive a rational basis test about why you would have justification to restrict it in that manner.
Mayor, why don't we just to throw it out, do it 8 o'clock on Saturdays and 1 to 6 on Sunday.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
That way, it's a compromise.
Rather than get into, well, here or there, that's the cleanest way to do it.
Just simplify it.
That way we've helped Saturday a little bit and then
Sunday, yeah.
but we haven't banned it.
No.
I would think, and I'll just throw this out for everybody to consider, 12 to 5 rather than 1 to 6 may be better, because you know what the heat's like in the summer.
Yeah.
So the earlier they can get in and the earlier they can get done, that 5 hours, even though it's just 1 hour, I think if I was working, I'd
Yeah,
want
as we get into the winter time,
I'd want to get,
the darkness comes in a little bit.
right. And the darkness comes in at 5 o'clock in the winter, so that's a good point.
Yes. So, well, from 12 to 5. So Monday through Friday, 7 to 7. Saturdays, 8 to 7. And Sundays, 12 to 5. And we may, I'll work with Prina on this, but right now we have it as a contra. So we say when you can do it, not when you can't do it. And we may look at flipping that around just to make it a little bit clearer. Yeah. So right now it's prohibited during the hours of 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And we'll just say it's permitted during the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
That sounds.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's make it for the average Joe to understand.
That's it. Okay. All right. Well, we'll work on drafting that up, and we'll probably look to have that for your April 17th
Okay,
council meeting.
okay.
Awesome.
Anybody else have any thoughts to add to that?
My only thought was, rather than 12, I was thinking more 10 for an 8-hour day. And I also, we've got developers and we've got people that had noise when they were having their house built. Maybe they forgot about that.
Of course they
But,
did.
So,
But also, we have people that that are workers. And sometimes when you work Sunday, that's time and a half or double time or those things. And some people like that extra bump in their pay because of that, and they're sacrificing to be there. So I think I'm more in favor of maybe 10 o'clock on Sundays, but 12 o'clock isn't a big issue for me.
I'll
So
tell
I'm thinking of 8 hours.
I'll tell you, Councilman White, there's language in your existing provisions that basically says an individual or a company may seek a limited exemption by completing an application. So that gives us flexibility that if something did come up,
Yeah.
and there truly is justification for it, and I know I've talked with Brianna, since she's the one that ultimately has this kind of fall in her lap to make a determination on, anytime we would grant something like that, it is going to be the exception rather than the rule. This is in place to protect the public.
I'm with that.
And that's, but it's not inflexible that if under the right circumstances, we could allow for a little bit of a variance.
Yeah, that makes sense. And from a management point of view, Josh, to do that flexibility, does that put an extra burden on you to sort of keep up with all that?
It does, but I've talked with Brandon, and I think we both feel comfortable about the standards and that it's on the applicant to show us why they cannot comply with the language of the code. And if they can do a good enough job of explaining that, then we can grant the exception. If they can't, then the standards are what the standards are, and they're meant to protect the public.
That makes sense.
That's it. So the examples we'll get is something where they have to run a certain number of trucks from the concrete plant to the site within a specified period of time. And in order to avoid some of the traffic on 278, which is relatively consistent nowadays, they will ask for an exception to ensure that they can get the number of trucks that they need to the site by a particular time. So we have allowed it, but again, it's the exception rather than the norm.
We have that in there based on weather, because they can't pour concrete at 100,
Yeah, when it's cold.
110 degrees out,
And
so.
the holidays, exit 5 was
Right.
a mess during the holidays, so we let them pour in Commerce Park or
Yeah, plus there's no residential right by Commerce Park either. Close, not right.
That's where that block definition gets kind of tenuous.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Pollen getting to you?
Yeah.
Gotta lay off that whiskey.
Yeah,
I heard that's good.
that's good.
Hey, Cindy,
Oh.
open your mouth, I'll squirt.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Good for allergies. I don't know.
Margarita Monday.
Yeah, well, I'm no doctor, but it sounds good.
Okay, all right. This has been a lot of fun, but I think we should still adjourn.
Motion for adjournment.
Motion second, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.